You're listening to Men of Abundance, episode 186. Today we're talking with the morning coach, Mr. JB Glossinger.
Welcome to Men of Abundance, the podcast for those looking to level up their lives by hanging out with some of the greatest leaders and established professionals in our community, living a life of integrity, honor, and the abundance mentality. Prepare to pay it forward with your host, former Army medic turned lifestyle entrepreneur, Wally Carmichael.
What is going on in your world today, Men of Abundance? I am Wally Carmichael, your founder and host of the Men of Abundance podcast, the Pay It Forward community. And man, we are paying it forward today in a big way. I hope you are too. If you are not paying it forward, then I'm going to give you a way to do it really quick, really easy. And that is to be abundant in your life today by paying it forward and sharing Men of Abundance with everyone you come in contact with. I say this all the time. It's really very simple, and it's extremely powerful. You want to get a bunch of thank yous. You want people to appreciate you. Then introduce them to things that are positive in their life. Introduce them to books that you've read. Are you reading? If you're not reading, you should be reading, or at least listening to audiobooks. Share that information. You know, you always share a great movie theater or even a great movie, or you'll share a good restaurant. And I know for a fact you're sharing those cat videos and all kinds of other funny videos on Facebook and YouTube and everything else. Hey, those things are funny. They're hilarious. I love to laugh as well. But I know some of you are also sharing all of the crappy news and all the heinous videos that are out there. Well, why don't you share something that will actually make a difference in somebody's life today, like right this minute? And share Men of Abundance. Share any one of the conversations that you've heard on Men of Abundance, especially the ones that you've really resonated with. You are going to get some thank yous. And all you have to say in return is you're welcome. There are so many ways to share Men of Abundance. One of the easiest ways is to just post this episode on Facebook or on Twitter. Share menofabundance.com with somebody. Or you know what? Believe it or not, there are still many people out there who have never heard of a podcast. And even those who have never listened to a podcast. I know because I talk to people every day. I meet at least 5 to 10 new people just about every single day. And I'm almost always talking about something. We're having a various conversation. I'll share a podcast with them, whether it's mine or somebody else's, something that is relevant to the conversation that we're having, or I'll share a book, but I'm always talking about various podcasts. And I'm amazed at how many people either don't know what a podcast is or have never listened to a podcast. So I grab their phone, I subscribe them to a podcast or two, make sure I subscribe them to Men of Abundance as well, and then they're off. And they thank me for it. So be abundant in your life today, pay it forward, and share Men of Abundance with others. And men, if you want to get in on the conversation, we continue these conversations from these conversations on the podcast at the Men of Abundance community on Facebook. To get access to the Men of Abundance community on Facebook, go to menofabundance.com and click on the Members Only tab to request access to the Men of Abundance community. That is a closed community, and it is men only. There are no joint accounts in there because we are doing what we can to just have conversations between us men. So right after this episode, go to menofabundance.com, click on the Members Only tab, and request access to the Men of Abundance community on Facebook. All right, it's time to bring out our amazing featured guest. JB Glossinger has an MBA, PhD, is widely beloved as the morning coach with a daily podcast that has been downloaded over 22 million times. That is crazy. He's a sought-after motivational speaker and coach with an international following. JB is also a mastermind group leader and a contributing writer to The Business Journals, a 43-paper network. He holds advanced degrees in business and metaphysics, but credits his street education, from black eyes to near bankruptcy, with providing the life-changing lessons that inspired the keys to personal transformation he shares with audiences, coaching clients, and readers worldwide. Men of Abundance, it is my pleasure to introduce you to JB Glossinger. JB, welcome to Men of Abundance, brother. How you doing?
Fantastic, man. Excited to be here. I'm all about abundance, so
man,
I'm excited.
I know you are. I've been checking out your stuff, too. Where are you at in the world?
I'm in Fort Lauderdale, enjoying the warm weather, playing a lot of golf, and just enjoying life down here.
Fort Lauderdale. I dig it down there. I spent some time in Cocoa Beach, Florida. And as it stands right now, my family is at the time of this recording, the week before Christmas, my family is in Tampa because we've been in Hawaii we've been out here on this rock for way too long, and the boys just want some other stuff. So
Nice. It's always good. Weather's been great. We got a little cold front, but now it's been rocking down here.
Yeah, that's the thing. My wife had to go out and buy a bunch of coats and stuff like that. Nobody told us it got cold in Florida, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. A bunch of my European listeners want me to come over there, and I said, well, I need to know when it's warm because I do not travel in the cold anymore. It's one of my rules.
Exactly. I'm all with you right there, 100%. So, man, before we get too much into the show, I like to start out with an attitude of gratitude. What do you have to be grateful for today?
Oh, man, life, just everything. Life is just awesome. If I'm not 7 feet under, I'm grateful. And I just, being in the present moment and just enjoying it, life is just awesome.
Excellent. I love that answer 100%. So I'm going to ask you this question. This kind of stumps some people, but I'm going to put it out there for you because I think you can handle it. I know you can handle it. How would you describe yourself?
Just a regular guy that loves life and wants to contribute, put some good energy out there. I'm one of the good guys. I bring positive energy every day, but then I train with my buddies that are ex-Israeli commandos because I think that, if something ever did happen, I need to be one of the guys that's going to be a good guy. So I feel I'm a good guy.
And I feel the same way. Based on what I know of you at this point, I mean, goodness, I read through your bio before we got started here, and I mean, an MBA, PhD, you're the morning coach. I dig that. Absolutely love that. We're going to talk more about specifically what that is and how that came about. I'm sure that's a fun story. But everything that you have going on, man, is just simply amazing. But one of the things that caught my eye about what you do and what was in your bio is that even with all of your degrees and everything, you feel that pretty much where you're at today, what got you to where you're at today is really your street education. Basically, like I said in your bio, your black eyes and near bankruptcy. Let's talk a little bit about that and see where that comes from.
Yeah, I mean, the degrees were great. I mean, they were kind of a crutch. I mean, I got them because I thought it's what I needed to be successful. So a lot of times on some of my marketing stuff, they show up because when you have really cold people, they need to have that credibility, right? But for me, I don't really talk about it much because they were a crutch at a time in my life that I felt unsuccessful, and I thought if I had an MBA and a PhD that everybody would respect me. But it has nothing to do with that. It has all to do with the ability to have value in yourself and then to put value into the world, to get skills that people will actually pay you for. That's really what it's about. And in order to do that, you got to go through things. You got to work a little bit, and you got to learn and you got to educate. And that's where I really learned was getting my education as I failed a lot through life.
Yeah, I really just literally had this conversation this weekend, and it got me thinking about my valedictorian of my high school that I graduated from. And at the time, I was like, man, if I could only have like just a sliver of Mark's intelligence, I would just give anything. Because the dude was super, super intelligent, but he was socially awkward. And he went through some time in his life where when we were getting closer to graduation, he kind of went a little off the edge. And I ran into him years later. I joined the Army, went off and traveled the world and stuff, and I came back, I was on leave, and I was at the Phoenix Zoo, where I grew up at in Phoenix. And he was working concessions at the zoo. And he was going to ASU still at that time. And then I found out this is tragic, actually a tragic story, I found out about a year or so later that he had committed suicide. And I thought about that this weekend because I was having this conversation with a couple of the guys about how education is important. Where you get the education, to me, is more important. And I don't hold a lot of interest in. I don't know. I just don't invest in the idea of the degree is what people need, because what's happening today is so many people are getting a degree, expecting to get a $60,000 a year job, and they're getting a $20,000 or $30,000 a year job with a PhD. And I just met one the other day that works here at the hospital, and it's like a kick in the gut, man.
Well, everything's a business, and I think that's what people need to realize, that, education is probably the biggest business there is, and they have funding from the government and student loans. And it's sad. I hate to see people come out of college with $120,000 in student loans and a PhD with nowhere to go, in some degree, that is some obscure degree. And that's what you run into. I think the education system is actually failing a lot of people because they put their faith that it's the degree, when it's not about the degree. It's about you and the value you bring. That's true abundance.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. And also what you said about the investment. The return on investment is just horrible.
Yeah, you got to go. I mean, look, I did it. It got me some places, and I was listening to everybody else when I was doing mine. And, I ran a corporation at 35 and was miserable. I was making 10 times more than my blue collar parents ever made out of Indiana. Mm-hmm. And I was feeling guilty. I was so guilty because I was unhappy with my situation. But it was because nobody ever helped me get clear about what I really should be doing with my life. And I listened to everybody else, and I got to a point that I was making tons of money, but I was miserable.
Right, absolutely. And again, guys, don't get me wrong. I'm absolutely a huge advocate for education. It's just like JB just said. Don't put all of your, don't think that degree alone is what's going to get you. He used it as a crutch. I like that term. I never heard that before, but used it as a crutch. Don't use it as a crutch. It's all about you. Ultimately, it's about you. Your knowledge is important, but who you are and how you communicate and how you interact with the workforce is really ultimately what's going to get you where you want to go.
100%. And, when you get a degree, then nobody can ever take it from you. So there is value there, but it's just the way that you approach it and the way you're going to approach your life is the key thing.
Well, more importantly, the knowledge that you get while you're obtaining the degree.
Well, and that's the issue. I think a lot of people don't know what they want to do, so they're just getting a degree because they think that's what's going to lead them somewhere. And in all education, that's an issue. You got to get a little bit more clear about, your passion and your dream. And I think if you're just going to, get that education because you think you're going to get $100,000 a year job or become a millionaire, that's the issue. That's the bottom line issue, is people are going to school because they think that's what's going to bring them economic freedom, and that's just not true.
Yeah, exactly. And we won't even get into some of the type of degrees people get into just for the sake of getting a degree.
Yep.
Lord. So, goodness, man, I know anybody who has done as much as you have and is moving forward and just, kicking ass and taking names. I know you must have a few kick in the gut moments, and I'd love for you to share one of those with us and really make us feel that.
Yeah, I've got plenty of those. I was 35, I was making a lot of money and literally went to the hospital, felt like I was about 80 because I thought I was having a heart attack from the stress. So I've had plenty, and then so what I did is I figured, well, gosh, this isn't working. I'm making money, but I'm not happy. So I decided I'd become a motivational speaker. I thought this was easy. I'll write a book and put it out there. So I put 40 grand into a book, self-published it, built a website with the little money that I had and went out there to become this big motivational speaker. And, 6 months later, we had burnt through all the money. We were losing our house and nobody really cared about me as a motivational speaker. And I still had the $40,000 worth of books sitting in the shelf. So, it was just a disaster. I've gone through so much. That first self-published book, which I thought, everybody would buy. I literally paid to go speak an event for $500 and took 2,000 books with me to that event, set up a booth, went to speak to 20 people, went back to my booth and sold 3 books. And you talk about a walk of shame, walking back with 2,000 or 1,997 books to put them back in your car and drive home. That's failure. That's just like failure. And then putting them back in your house and seeing them every day and your wife looking at you like, dude, what's going on? When are you going to make this happen? And, every month just burning through more money, trying to make it work. It was really sad. I wouldn't want anybody to go through it.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, many of us do have to go through that to get to where you're at. So what was the enough is enough moment? What turned all that around?
It was funny. I think it was a night when I crawled into a bottle, and just was getting, I had a friend over and I just said, gosh, there's something good here. And he said, well, why don't you do a conference call and, start doing some morning stuff and start putting some positive energy out there and keep the belief alive. So that was really the turning point, was him saying, well, do something different and be creative. And it really changed my whole outlook. Now, it didn't affect me for 4 or 5 more years, really, financially, but at least it got me going down a different path.
Yeah, and 2 things that I hear there, well, I hear a lot of things, but 2 things I want to point out that I hear there was, number 1, you had a man by your side who was supporting you. in that moment. He was somebody who believed in at least what you had going on, and at least believed in you enough to tell you, look, dude, don't let this completely go. But then the other thing was kind of a branding thing. It's kind of a niche, I guess, that you did the morning thing. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more and how that really became you become dubbed as the morning coach?
Yeah, well, it's true. I'll be totally transparent. I was searching for something for coaching to call a conference call I was going to do, and I couldn't find anything. And Morning Coach came up the URL, and I wasn't even a morning coach that much then. I mean, a morning guy that much. And I'm like, well, I'm the morning coach. So that was back in 2005 or 2004, and it was time to become the morning person. And so it really was kind of a God whisper that I found that URL, and that's what kind of transformed everything.
That's awesome, man. Some people pay thousands of dollars for that type of branding.
Exactly. And I just kind of, I'm the type that doesn't believe you fall anything. You work hard and things come to you. And that's kind of what happened. I was putting the time in, the work, and it came. And then it took me years to kind of really get that going. But then it started to take off. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. So at what point when it started to take off did you really start realizing that you were making a change in people's lives? Because ultimately as coaches, that's what we want to do. We want to be the change agent for those individuals. Most coaches, when it comes to coaching, the person already has what they need. They have the skills, they have the ability. We're just there to kind of coerce it out of them, kind of coach that information out of them, let them make their own decisions. That way they own it. So what kind of rolled that in where you started realizing that, hey, I'm making a difference, and now this is something that I'm really going to grasp onto and run with?
Well, up to 2009, so from like 2006 to 2009, I was free, and I put 12,000 people on a website. We were top 25. I mean, I was killing it as far as people, but there was no money back then. Mm-hmm. And so I was speaking at Blog World. I got to know Gary Vaynerchuk and Tim Ferriss, who've built these huge things now, mm-hmm. But I didn't have any money. And so I went paid to a subscription, and I had 1,200 people come with me for $20 a month. So it totally changed my life at that point in 2009. But what really did it was I got a letter about 2 months after this, or 3 months after this, from a lady sent this from a big package, and I opened it up, and I'm reading this letter. It starts off, JB, I just want you to know what happened to me. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I start reading. She goes, I married this guy. We had 2 beautiful kids. He was from Europe. I moved from California to Europe to start my life. And I'm reading this, and I'm like, okay, cool, this is cool. And she's like, life was good until he started to abuse me. He started to physically beat me. And she said, I couldn't find anything positive, and I was trying to find something positive. And how I found you is I would go in the closet afterwards, and I would search for positive stuff, and your podcast came up. So I started listening to you, and I'm reading this letter going, wow, this is deep. And I flipped the page, and she's like, my kids, I was staying with him for the kids, and she said, you did a podcast on strength. And I flipped the page, and she's telling me the story. She said, I took the money out of the bank that we had. We bought tickets. We snuck out of the house, and we flew back to California to get away from the abuse. And I'm flipping the page, and she's telling me about all the trouble. She said, I kept paying you for the subscription even when we didn't have money. But I finally get to the last page, and she says, I just want to tell you that I'm sitting here on the beach. Yesterday, I finished my first marathon. Both my wonderful kids were with me at the finish line. I'm with a new relationship, and life is just great, and I want to thank you. And everything changed the day that I got that letter, because I was doing it more from the business aspect than I was for the people. And at that moment, everything changed. It was like, man, I got to do this every day. I got to show up. There are people that need me. And everything shifted from me. And now, I mean, there's not a day. I mean, I used to try to pre-record and stuff, and it's like, no, I need to do this every day. I need the energy to be right. I need it to be good. And so that was probably in 2010, and I really feel that letter changed my life, because I started to realize, what I was really doing.
Yeah, and once we make that realization, and man, this is true if you're an entrepreneur, if you're an employee, it doesn't matter what it is that you're doing, even at home in your relationships. Once we realize that people are people and not objects or vehicles, your whole life will change. Your whole life will change. The way you see people, the way you interact with them, and the way you earn your income will completely change. And I believe that's really, it kind of gets down to what happened right there, was you started seeing those that you were paying you as people instead of just those objects and those vehicles for you to kind of make a living, right?
Yeah, 100%. And it really, a lot of people say, because I'm, on Christmas is episode 3,000, right? So it's crazy to think I've done 3,000 podcasts. Wow. And and people say, how do you come up with the content? How do you stay motivated to do that? And I just think of her, and it's not hard. I mean, it's not hard to be motivated to get up and do it when you have somebody like that. They call it the avatar in marketing. But when you have that, you got a job to do, and you got to do it, and you got to show up for those people. And it's totally different than showing up for the like on Facebook or for the YouTube video share. It changes everything. And I think we live in a society now where that's all that's important. I need Facebook likes. I need subscribers. I need more people on my Instagram. No, you need real people, and you need to take care of them.
Yeah, and that's another thing that really drives me nuts is I get these people, as we were talking pre-show, as I get more and more out there, my podcast is currently only downloaded in like 61 countries where, that's great for me. I say only, but that's just freaking amazing. It blows my mind. But as my name gets out there and Men of Abundance gets out there more, I'm getting more and more people contacting me to help me with my Instagram and help me with my Pinterest and help me get 1,000, 1 million followers on, and friends on Facebook and all this stuff. And I'm like, guys, you're missing the point, man. It goes back to the old saying, I'd rather have, 5 amazing engaged people that I'm having intelligent conversations with than 50,000 people that are just kind of hanging out and doing nothing, type of thing. And it's the same with all the investors that are contacting me all the time, wanting me to invest in this, invest in that. They're missing the point. It's not about, for me, I don't want to ever say that I don't want to make money because I do enjoy making an income. But it's not just about the money. For me, it's about the people. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you, because I knew you felt the same exact way.
Well, yeah, and it's what's led me to ultimately being successful. I don't chase. I never have to chase anything. The flavor of the day is Bitcoin, and, everybody's trying to make millions of dollars in Bitcoin. I don't even look at it. I have a business where I'm building because I'm passionate about it, I'm excited about it. I'm not adverse about making money, but true abundance is not about money. I mean, I could make more money right now and my life wouldn't change. And what am I going to do? Buy a bigger house with another bedroom? I'm going to get another place in Columbia, or I have them down there. It's like you got to get out of this concept that it's about the acquisition of things that really makes the difference. Yeah, money's great. I mean, I love it. Believe me, I play golf almost every day. I'm in a really great club, and I built all this, myself. But it's not about that. It's about finding what you're passionate about, doing what you love, and that passion is so overused. But finding what you enjoy and then doing it. And the old adage of that, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. That's me. I mean, I do it. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you brought up the Bitcoin. I get contacted 2-3 times a week, sometimes by the same guys, just pushing this Bitcoin. And it used to be Forex investing, and now it's Bitcoin. Like you said, that's the flavor of the month, the flavor of the year. And I'm like, guys, you're just not getting who I am. I'm excited that that's working for you. I really am. But who I am is I invest in myself and I invest in people. And that's what I enjoy doing. And that's where I'm in the zone. I love these conversations, and I love having conversations with men who want to live a life of abundance. And if you're the type of guy that wants to just go out and make a few bucks, man, I can show you how to make some money. I really can do that. But ultimately, that's after all these conversations I've had, the money and the stuff and the things and the cars, that's not where the true happiness is at. It sounds fluffy and all this kind of stuff, but the fact of the matter is I've talked to multimillionaires. I've talked to people like yourself who have had the yachts and all this stuff. Ultimately, it's all about adding value to people. That's where the true fun is at. And for me, I'm speaking for myself.
Well, it gets scary because I call it the lotto mentality. My issue with it is that, and I used to do this when I was broke, and I lived in Tucson, so I wasn't too far from you. After college, I went out to Tucson, Arizona, and when I was broke, I'd buy a lottery ticket on Wednesday because the Powerball was $40 million, and I would be so excited, and I would lay in bed dreaming about what I was going to do with the $40 million, which I knew I wasn't going to win, but I would convince myself that I'd win, and then the numbers would be drawn Wednesday, but I wouldn't check it Thursday or Friday. Finally, I'd check it Saturday, and the reason I'd check it Saturday because there was going to be another drawing on Saturday night, and that's where I was putting all my hope. And so the issue with that is I wasn't working on myself. I wasn't building anything. I wasn't using the metaphysical principles of visualization and focus. I was putting it all on this lottery ticket, and it's why I was broke. It wasn't anything that was real, And granted, maybe somebody wins the lottery every once in a while. Great, good for you. But at the end of the day, if you have this lottery mentality that the next thing's going to be the thing that does it for you, you just never win with that. You've got to get some energy going in the right direction and start to use some of those powers of the mind and visualization to help you instead of laying in bed thinking about what you're going to do with all your Bitcoin money.
Yeah, great point. And a lot of those lottery winners that do win, a lot of them end up losing big time in the long run. That's a whole different story.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
All right, brother. We're at the point where we're going to pay it forward. Are you ready to do that?
Yeah, I love it.
Outstanding. So share with Men of Abundance 1 to 3 actionable steps that they can take today. And guys, I want you to listen to these actionable steps and actually take these steps.
Oh, I think it's huge. First thing, what changed my life? Morning routine. So you got to get up, and I'm just going to say a couple things here. Very simple. Get up, drink some water in the morning, put your shoes on, and go for a walk or get moving, and listen to something positive. That's it. If you start doing that and change the way you set up your day, your life will change. And it's all about the morning. And you just got to get up, drink some water, and if you can put a little lemon in it, I think it's great. Start moving. This isn't about exercise. I'm not saying train. I'm just saying move and listen to something positive. 15 to 30 minutes. Start your day that way. It will change your life.
Simply amazing, guys. You know that I'll say this because I say it almost every time. It sounds so familiar because that's almost to the T exactly what my morning starts out like. What habits? You already mentioned a few habits, but what other habits make the biggest impact in your life?
Reading. I think reading's huge. I read a ton. So I try to read 3 books a week, and that includes audio, right? So I'll do audible books. So I think the habit of reading, it's just crazy if we don't talk about health. If you don't take care of your health and you believe metaphysically like I do in God or in something higher than that, how can you show value to anything if you don't even value yourself enough to take care of yourself? So health is the foundation of everything. And the third habit I'll do 3, is to have gratitude in the morning, because if you don't have gratitude for life and you don't have gratitude for the things that are in your life, more isn't going to come. So really, reading is so critical. Taking care of yourself and your health is the next thing that's so critical. And then having gratitude. Again, you do those basic things and life changes.
I have to say, one of the things that you touched on there is if you don't take care of yourself, basically that's the base of it all, right? And I look at it the same way. When I see somebody who's not taking care of themselves, it's not that I disrespect them as a person. I just can't take their advice because, number one, they're not taking care of themselves. That's just a personal bias on my point, because I've been in the medical field for so long. I see nurses who come outside and smoke. They're overweight, doctors that are overweight, and I'm like, you should know better, type of thing, and it just doesn't sit well with me. And I feel the same way about coaches. And I've even seen, and I'm not saying you have to be a perfect specimen. That's not what I'm saying at all. But at least take care of yourself.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that's it. Well, it's just you value yourself. It's that simple. If you see somebody that doesn't take care of themselves, and you don't have to be a supermodel, but if you don't take care of yourself, you don't value yourself. It's a great indicator that you have a self-worth issue, right? It starts there. So if you're a coach or you're somebody that's trying to impact other people's lives and you don't even value yourself, it's time to look in the mirror. And the beautiful thing about life is you can start right now. You can start to make healthier eating choices, and we don't have to insult anybody's intelligence because everybody knows what they should do. It's just time to get going. But I will tell you this. I think if you'd stop trying to work out and start to train for something, that will make a big difference. So train for a 5K or train for a Tough Mudder or train, for something that you and your buddies are going to do. If you can start training instead of working out, it'll start to change your life too.
Yeah, absolutely. Having that ultimate goal in mind. I 100% agree with that. So you already mentioned that you love reading. You read a lot. You listen to a lot of audiobooks. I love audiobooks. What would you recommend to our abundant leaders to read or listen to, and why? I love everything of Wayne Dyer. He was a mentor of mine. I've gone through his transition where he started psychological and, I started business and now I'm more spiritual, right? And I love that pathway. I think anything from him, I just think, I just get in the habit of reading things that you get in the habit for. I used to go to the bookstore and I would just go to look on the shelves and something, it would always draw me to it, right? So go on Amazon and just start reading. Just whatever you think is, get in that habit is what I'm saying. And listen to you and listen to me and get into personal development. Become that junkie, because that's what will make the big difference. I think everybody's on a different path, and I don't have a specific thing to tell you, like go read this because it'll change your life. I'd love you to read my book, Sacred Six. It's a good one. But really, I think you got to just allow your heart. In gambling, there's a thing called fading, right? So let me just say this real quick.
When you gamble and you bet on a certain team consistently, and that team keeps losing, and you keep losing your bets, eventually you stop believing in yourself, so you start fading. You start betting against yourself. You're like, man, I've lost so much that I think this team's going to win. I'm going to bet on the other team. We do that in life. We stop believing in our intuition and the ability to say, this is what I need to do next. I'm here to tell you, stop that and start believing in that intuition. And there are plenty of books that will come. You'll flip on Amazon, you'll see it. Buy it. You were meant to read that. Start trusting that intuition again and build on that and stop fading yourself. If you feel like you're at a crossroads and, it says, I got to go left or right, and your heart says go left, but your brain's going, no, we can't go left. We keep screwing up. I got to go right. Go left, right? So same thing with reading. Pick some stuff out and start reading.
Absolutely wonderful. I love it. And I do the same exact thing when somebody asks me what book to recommend, and especially if on somebody else's show, because I don't know where everybody's at. Everybody's on their own journey. And I generally ask them, if I'm talking to somebody face to face, I'm like, I don't know. Where are you, let's talk a little bit. What do you want to do? What are you looking for? I've read so many books and listened to so many audios and podcasts and so on and so forth. I can definitely recommend something to you, but I got to know where you're at in your journey to really give you an effective suggestion. Great point.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think just get on the road of it, road of that self-education. Just suck it all up. Life is so awesome, and so many people are bored. Why do people have substance abuse issues? Because they're bored, and nobody has a right to be bored anymore. Gosh, there's so many things to learn.
Ain't that the truth? That is for sure the truth. So what do you feel holds most people back from living a life of true abundance?
Personal belief. I say thoughts are things from The Secret back in the day, right? And then thoughts are things, but beliefs make them so, and then actions solidify the belief. So the reason people don't have what they want in their lives right now is they just don't believe it. And only they know that. They got to be able to stand in the mirror and say, I believe that these are the things that are going to come into my life. And that belief has to come from experience and has to come from victories that you celebrate along the way, and that's what will build the belief.
Absolutely. Wonderful. So what does living a life of abundance mean to you? I mean, here you are. You're already living this amazing life, golf club, out there golfing in Daytona, and just a beautiful life. But what else is there? What does abundant life mean to you?
True abundance to me is peace, and that's really deep. But Blaise Pascal says all man's misery derived from not being able to sit in a room alone. To me, true abundance is to be able to sit down at your desk or in your house alone and realize that everything is as it should be, and there's power in that. So finding that peace is what it's all about.
Yeah, everything is as it should be at that point in your life, at this point in your life. Absolutely. Well said. So we're going to close this up, JB, and before we do, what did we not talk about that you'd like to ensure that our abundant leaders get out of our conversation today?
Well, I think true abundance, and we're talking about abundance, true people abundance recognize that there is lack, and this lack thinking is the opposite of abundance, and there is more than enough. And we need to focus on our businesses and in our life to recognize that there is enough for everybody, that we can end hunger, we can end disease, we can end poverty, but we have to change our consciousness. We have to be more abundant, more thoughtful, and we have to change where we're spending our time. Get out of the Facebook algorithm. Get rid of stopping and fighting all this political noise and start to focus on what you can do in your community to be more abundant and be a better leader. And that's how we change the world, one person at a time.
Excellent. So we're definitely going to have Glossinger.com linked up in the show notes. How else can we reach you?
Morningcoach.com is the place where I do most of my work, so that's a good place to go, and you can find me there. And we always have giveaways and stuff, so you can just check us out over at morningcoach.com.
Excellent. We'll have all that linked up in the show notes at menofabundance.com. Excellent conversation, JB. I truly appreciate your time. I dig what you're doing. Keep doing that. Keep living your life of abundance and always pay it forward, brother.
Thank you, my man. Right back at you.
Aloha. All right, man, you know how important morning routines are to me. And if you're just starting a morning routine or you're still trying to kind of figure out what your morning routine might be, or you're about ready to change it up a little bit, because it's also important to change up your routine just slightly so that it doesn't get too stale. And you want to put a little bit of excitement in there, change a few things up, then the Morning Coach, I believe, would be a great addition to your morning routine. And you can subscribe to the Morning Coach with JB Glossinger on his YouTube channel. And I'm going to have that linked up in the show notes at menofabundance.com/186. And go ahead and subscribe to the Morning Coach YouTube channel as well as the podcast. Both are going to be linked up in the show notes so you can easily access it. Now, go out and live your life of abundance. And guys, make sure to pay it forward.
That's all for today, Abundance Leaders. For more about our guests and the powerful information we shared with you today, be sure to sign up for our mailing list at menofabundance.com. We appreciate your time and look forward to hanging out with you on our next episode. So until then, be sure to pay it forward and live your life of abundance.